Part 59. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 586. Chapter 584 Extra, The Little Fairy is Just Passing By, 3,000 words continued. Facing the siege of 11 gangsters, the girl maintained her usual innocent expression, her eyes were calm, and she even advanced instead of retreating. Before the gangsters formed a complete encirclement, they first faced off against a gangster rushing at the front. The white and slender palms were slightly opened, the arms were stretched out, and the gangster's wrist was half grasped accurately, and then twisted. Ouch! A sound like a slaughtering pig sounded. The machete in the gangster's hand fell out of his hand, and was easily caught by the girl's other hand before it fell to the ground. He held the handle of the knife behind his back with his left hand and slapped the gangster in the face with the palm-width blade of the knife. Bang! Bang! Within a few seconds, a pig-headed face fell to the ground in front of the girl. With weapons in hand, the girls became bolder and continued to move forward. Come on together. I don't believe it anymore. She's just one person with two hands. Come on together. Seeing the girl kill an accomplice so neatly, the other 10 gangsters were shocked and angry. There was also a hint of timidity towards the girl's sudden display of force. Invariably, they all want to swarm forward and crush them with their numerical advantage. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. Ayo, I'm going. The minute hand on the clock hanging on the wall of the bank just moved forward. The girl glanced around and saw that all the gangsters were falling to the ground and yelling, so she carried the machete to untie the ropes on the hostages. Thank you, thank you. The people who were suddenly saved were overjoyed and expressed their gratitude to the girl one after another. The girl smiled shyly, hey, no thank you, no thank you. If you really want to thank me, just give me some money. It's a pity that people present don't understand what the girl is thinking, not even the bank staff. Why? The girl sighed inwardly. What a hateful little devil. The gangster boss, who had been hit hard at the beginning, regained his composure. He glanced sharply and saw the gun not far away. He moved his body, stretched out his hand, and grasped the handle of the gun little by little. Then he stood up without thinking. The gun was pointed in the direction of the girl. Careful! Get out of the way! When the people nearby saw the gangster boss's actions, their minds that had just relaxed became tense again, and some even shouted. Go to hell! You kid! The gangster boss's expression turned ferocious in an instant, and he pulled the trigger with his finger. The girl didn't look back. Instead, when she sensed danger for a moment, she moved to the left, then turned around and looked back. Boom! A gunshot sounded, but it didn't sound in the bank. When Sutinyu saw the ferocious look on the gangster boss's face, he froze, and the arm holding the gun dropped weakly, and together with his whole body, it hit the floor heavily. Sutinyu took a few steps closer and suddenly looked slightly startled. Behind the gangster boss's head, there was a bullet hole that was constantly bleeding. Gun. Sniper rifle. Sutinyu roughly judged the direction of the ballistic trajectory and found an inconspicuous round hole on a glass wall of the bank. And outside the bank, on top of a tall building, a man with a calm face took back the sniper rifle and began to load and unload it, putting it into the gun box beside it. The danger has been resolved. You can go in and rescue people. The man picked up a communicator and reported the situation to the person opposite. Yes, the person on the other end of the communicator responded. Almost at the same time, the special police surrounding the bank were dispatched one after another, breaking open the bank door in an orderly manner and rushing inside. The man looked at the situation below and spoke to the communicator again, pay attention to recovering smuggled guns. Yes. The person who responded on the other end paused and asked, Lieutenant Chin, are you going to take the smuggled guns back, or follow normal procedures? The man's eyebrows were calm. Okay, Lieutenant Cheen. Communication ends. In the temporary headquarters, the commander responsible for the rescue mission breathed a sigh of relief. In the room, several other police officers looked very serious when they saw that the commander was just answering a communication. They couldn't help but wonder, who is that person from? Lao Ma, why did I feel that you were so nervous just now? I don't know the origin very well, the commander said this, but he quickly made a special mouth shape to a few old friends. Seeing this, several people were surprised. No wonder. A lieutenant who was about to end his vacation suddenly wanted to intervene in the operation after revealing his identity, but the commander, who was a captain, agreed without saying a word. Report, all the gangsters in the bank have been arrested. One of the 12 gangsters was shot in the head and died at this time. A police officer came in from the door. The commander quickly asked, "Are the hostages injured? Have the guns been recovered?" Report, "The hostages are not injured and the guns have been recovered." The SWAT captain paused and continued to report. After we entered, the remaining 11 gangsters had all lost their combat effectiveness. It is said. The commander frowned. What is said? All the hostages present said, it was an underage girl who brought down all the gangsters. Underage? Or a girl? Several people in the command headquarters looked at each other, a little doubtful that they heard wrongly. The SWAT captain straightened his back and said with a strong voice, "Report." Yes. It's absolutely true. Also, the girl asked if she would get any bonus for her bravery. Inside the headquarters, the atmosphere was strangely silent for a few seconds. Well, I'll reward that girl with a comprehensive physical examination from a central hospital. She can confront the gangster without leaving any wounds or hidden dangers. Someone silently said, "Commander Ma, it seems there is no such rule." "I'll pay for it." Go ahead, the commander waved to the SWAT captain. "You are responsible for taking people there, and you must confirm with your own eyes that there is no problem." SWAT captain, "Yes." "Promise to complete the mission." "Old Ma, why are you so damaged?" "That's right, can't we just give the little girl a bonus?" "What do you know? Money is not as important as good health." After the SWAT captain came out, some conversations could be heard coming from the command post. When the SWAT captain told the girl the good news, the latter was stunned for 4 seconds, and then quickly asked, "Can the money for the physical examination be given directly to me as a bonus? I think I am very healthy, but I am malnourished. I need this. Use the bonus to buy something delicious." Ahem, no, the SWAT captain suppressed his smile. "Okay, there's nothing wrong now. I'll personally take you to the central hospital for a physical examination." "No. This." The girl couldn't understand it. It would be so convenient to give bonuses directly, so why would they reward physical examinations? "Can I not go? It's too much trouble." "No trouble, I'll take you there in a special car. It's a direct ride. It'll be quick." The SWAT captain took the girl into the police car. The latter was calm because she didn't know how many times she had been in the police car. The police car started and headed towards the central hospital. The girl just sat there for a while and couldn't sit still anymore. She started chatting without any restraint. "Which policeman was the sniper who killed the gangster?" "He works in a police station that is not here." "You want to thank him in person?" "He doesn't work here. As for his identity, it's kept secret." The SWAT captain pretended to be mysterious. "TCH, it can't be the police uncle and you don't know his background, right?" The girl rolled her eyes. "Moreover, even without that shot, she could still dodge and then kill the gangster boss completely." When they came to the central hospital, the SWAT captain also specially found an authoritative doctor from the mysterious bureau to give the girl a comprehensive experience. "It doesn't have to be so grand, right? There must be nothing wrong with my health." Before entering the physical examination room, the girl was still thinking about making the last struggle. I'm not asking you to go to the battlefield. Hurry up, I still have official duties. The SWAT captain pushed the girl in, and then looked at the doctor in charge of the physical examination. Please, this child just fought with more than a dozen gangsters. Pass. Okay. As soon as he heard this, the doctor looked at the girl differently. This is a brave little hero. The little hero himself didn't know that the doctor had just developed admiration for him. The little hero looked depressed and was still regretting the cost of this physical examination. Ying, it must be enough for her living expenses for a week. Come on, little hero, let's go for a physical examination. The doctor took the girl to the physical examination equipment. Bypassing some ordinary equipment for measuring height and vision, the girl was taken to some physical examination equipment that she had never seen before. Uncle Doctor, are you lying to me? Who has ever had this kind of equipment for physical examination? The girl looked confused. The doctor put his finger on the glasses on the bridge of his nose. I'm not going to lie to you. Besides, there is a policeman outside. How dare I lie to you like a child in front of the policeman? This is indeed not a device for general physical examination. It's just that the SWAT captain just now gave the doctor a hint, so the doctor suddenly thought of the special medical examination equipment left in the medical examination room. These devices are not for physical examinations of ordinary people. At this time, outside the medical examination room, the SWAT captain was talking to someone on the phone. Captain, the girl's information has been found. The girl's name is Sutingyu. She is 17 years old. She is an orphan. She is currently living in an orphanage. When she becomes an adult next year, she will move out of the orphanage. Orphan. Only then did the SWAT captain understand why girls were so obsessed with money. To be more specific, has she ever been exposed to martial arts or anything like that? The SWAT captain was amazed when he confirmed that it was a girl who could fight 12 gangsters by herself and escape unscathed. The origin of the identity became suspicious. After investigation, it was found that Sutingyu seems to be born with supernatural powers. She has been very strong since she was a child. Moreover, she is a bit unlucky. When she was very young, there were people who wanted to adopt her, but all kinds of accidents happened. This girl has been staying in the orphanage. This is really unfortunate. The SWAT captain thought to himself. Since no problem could be found in his identity and origin, he could only wait for the results of the physical examination. There's no one to pick up the National Day extra episode. By the way, let me ask a little question. Who said he hated Gujula at the beginning? Raise your paw and let me see if you are still there. Please stand firm. Therefore, I will follow the public opinion and abuse him. If nothing unexpected happened, in the next period of time, you happily took on the title of the protagonist of the cheating fairy, and then temporarily lent it to Guju to play for a while she went paddling in the water, being lazy, and enjoying herself. Does Kong Yu have a chance to realize the big fish eats Kikai in the introduction? Because it was a different person, the title was somewhat acclimated, so it mutated into Tsundere and Poor. I just ask you if you are looking forward to it and if you are happy. There should be firecrackers here to celebrate. Crackling. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 587. For some reason, Guding couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. I always feel like, what happened? Guding was also bored with the following performance, so he got up and left. Doctor, do you want to go back to your room to rest? Chu Xinyu followed Guding, hugged the latter's arm, and asked softly. Guding pushed Chu Xinyu's body away. You go back first, I have to go to the laboratory. Okay, Chu Xinyu responded obediently. After Chu Xinyu left on her own, Guding rushed towards the laboratory alone. On weekdays, Guding only works during the day and rarely stays in the laboratory at night. And tonight I suddenly want to go to the laboratory to have a look. Arriving at the door of the experimental area, Guding saw a white figure standing in front of the beverage machine inside the door before he entered. Guding took a closer look and found that it was Dr. Zhao, an old acquaintance from the laboratory. Dr. Zhao, why are you coming out? Guding walked over and greeted with a smile. Dr. Zhao turned his head, saw the visitor, and said, the laboratory was a little stuffy, and I couldn't help it when I saw the equipment and data, so I had to come out for some air, and I went back soon. Guding glanced at the door of the laboratory, which was still closed tightly, as if everything was normal. There is no problem in the laboratory, right? Everything is fine, Dr. Zhao replied casually. By the way, Dr. Solo will leave tomorrow morning, right? Yes, the teacher still has work there. Guding nodded, then looked a little regretful. It's a pity that the teacher can't stay more time. Dr. Zhao pointed the direction of the laboratory while holding the drink. Then I will go back to the laboratory first. You have to go see Dr. Solo off tomorrow, but you should go to bed early. Okay, okay. Guding sent people away with a smile. After watching Dr. Zhao enter the laboratory, the door of the laboratory was closed again. He stood there for a few seconds, and finally chose to turn around and leave. What could happen? Everything is fine. Guding laughed at his own sensitivity in his heart, and then put the matter behind him. When he thought that there was a beauty waiting for him in the room, Guding's whole body suddenly became hot, and his pace accelerated a lot. In the laboratory, Yanqing looked at the resurrected Dr. Zhao in front of him and opened his mouth in surprise. Fortunately, we were on guard, so Tingyu pretended to be Dr. Zhao and spoke with a hint of joy in his tone. It should be fine now. Let's wait a little longer and then go back. Qinchi, yeah. After waiting for almost half an hour, and after confirming that there was no problem, the two came out of the laboratory. As soon as he came out, Fatty came to pick him up. Oh, I'll go, I was scared to death. I thought Guding was going to enter the laboratory. The fat man was still frightened. If De Hui and the others hadn't discovered in advance that Guding was coming, they would have been exposed. It's okay, he's lucky. So Tingyu didn't feel anything. If Guding really found something wrong, so Tingyu and the others would have no choice but to kill Guding first. So Tingyu and others had nothing to lose. Moreover, the person who made the profit was Guding, and he could live one more night. Let's go back. Let De Hui and the others stay and keep an eye on Yanqing in secret. It was naturally impossible for Su Tingyu to leave the entire task of keeping secrets in the laboratory to a stranger he had just met. The original plan was for one of the three Su Tingyu to stay, but now something unexpected happened. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 588. Chapter 588. In the warden's dormitory. After Su Tingyu and the others came back, Guqi asked. All the best. Su Tingyu nodded, it's okay. The general plan is going smoothly, but there was just a little accident. Immediately, Su Tingyu told the story of Yanqing and Guding's return. Okay, let's wait until tomorrow. Knowing that Su Tingyu had also taken precautionary measures, Guqi didn't ask any more questions. Even if Guqi didn't believe Su Tingyu, he still had to believe that with Qinchi present, nothing would go wrong. After briefly discussing the matter, several people went to rest. A night of silence. Copy on the fifth day. Copy time, 6:30. Susu, get up. Drowsily, Su Tingyu half opened one eye, saw Shan Yu, turned over, and prepared to continue sleeping. Susu, get up. Seeing this, Shan Yu had no choice but to push Su Tingyu's arm again. Su Tingyu closed his open right eye, then opened the other eye. He was dazed for 2 seconds, then gradually woke up and muttered to himself, "Yes, today is the day I was released from prison. A good day." Sutingyu sat up, his eyes were groggy, and then he raised his hand to rub his big eyes. "Susu, come out and have breakfast, Qin Chi has left." Shan Yu walked to the edge of the door and turned around. Kikai is leaving." Sutingyu jumped out of bed and put on her shoes. "Shan Yu, yes, I went out right after breakfast, and so did Fatty. They went to check out the spots in advance." "Is that so?" Sutingyu put on her shoes and left the room with Shan Yu. There was only one person left outside, Gucci. Sutingyu took out the bread from the inventory and ate it. "When will Solo leave?" Sutingyu asked while eating. Gucci, "Morning, 8 o'clock. "Okay, I'll go to the laboratory later." Sutingyu took another bite of bread. After eating and drinking, Sutingyu touched his round belly, then packed lightly and rushed to the experimental area. Copy time, 7:40. After the time was almost up, Gucci and Shan Yu also started to leave. Just like yesterday, among the people who went to the airport to greet us this morning, there were only some researchers who were working hard on science. "Guding, you must make good use of the things I sent." When Gu Qing arrived at the airport, he saw Solo and Guding talking about something. "I will," teacher. Guding nodded solemnly. "You've been staying here for several years. Have you decided when you want to go back? Remember to let me know." "I understand, teacher." When Gu Qi walked over, the two seemed to notice someone approaching, so they stopped talking and looked over together. "Good morning, Mr. Warden." "Good morning, Dr. Solo." Dr. Gu Qi looked at Solo. "Have a good trip, doctor." "Haha, okay, I will come to the island again if I have the chance." Hearing this, Gu Qi slightly raised his li, being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 589. Dr. Gu is going back to the experiment, right? Why not come together? After the plane's shadow completely disappeared from the sky, Gu Qi turned to look at Guding and said. The warden's daily itinerary also includes a record of his daily visits to the laboratory, so it was not out of the ordinary for Gu Qi to suggest that he should go with him. Sure enough, Guding was not suspicious. Okay. After Solo left, Guding no longer concealed Chu Xinyu's existence, and wanted to take people to the laboratory openly. Since Guding can take someone with him, it seems reasonable for him as the warden to take someone with him. Although Guding was surprised, he thought that the warden and he were both hot-tempered people, so he consciously figured out the reason. "Warden Zhang, the results sent by my teacher are extremely important. I may spend more time in the experiment in the next month. In addition, the number of experimental targets may be insufficient and need to be expanded." On the way to the laboratory, Guding discussed the matter with the warden. "Okay, just tell me the quantity you need. I'll have it delivered on time." Gu Qi nodded indifferently. "Anyway, this dungeon will be completed soon." The other end. On the helicopter. After getting on the plane, Solo just sat in his seat. He glanced around and realized why the pilot had become a fat man. It was obvious that the driver was relatively thin when he arrived. Xiao Lu. Solo called his assistant. The assistant standing at the edge of the plane door heard the summons and came over. "Sir, what's the matter?" Zoro's eyes never left the driver's back. He lowered his voice secretly, "Go and check on the driver." But before Zoro could receive a response from his assistant, a short burst of strong wind blew past his ears, and Zoro was suddenly hit hard on the back of his neck. Zoro's vision suddenly turned black and he fell softly on his seat. What happened? At this time, the pilot who heard the noise turned around, and the fat man's round face was revealed. He looked at the unfamiliar assistant man. "Brother Qin, how are you?" Hearing this, the assistant turned his head and glanced at the unconscious Solo. "That's it? That's great. What now?" An ancient bronze sword appeared in Qin Chi's hand, and a calm voice came from his lips, "Turn around and concentrate on flying the plane." "Oh, okay." The fat man turned his head honestly. 2 seconds later, Fatty heard a sound of wiping his throat behind him, and there seemed to be the sound of blood splashing on the ground. Below the helicopter is the vast sea. Qin Chi pushed open the plane door, threw the body down, and watched with his own eyes as the body fell completely into the sea before closing the plane door. "Let's go to the nearby island and wait for news about Big Fish and the others," Qin Chi spoke. "Okay, brother Qin." On the sky, the helicopter that had been flying straight made a sharp turn, deviated from the original route at a small angle, and then flew back. Attention players participating in the hidden mission the other side of the laboratory. Hidden mission progress has been updated. Hidden mission progress, 75%. At this time, the other 3 people in the island prison also received the panel notification at the same time. Gucci turned off the panel in front of him and glanced in the direction of Chu Xinyu inadvertently. The latter was looking at Shan Yu, who had just jumped out of the panel and did not notice his situation. It should be the effect of the disguise potion. She couldn't see her own panel. Gucci withdrew his gaze. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 590. Experimental Area. Huh? It feels a little quiet this morning. When Guding came to the experimental area, he found that there were very few prison guards patrolling, especially as he got closer to the laboratory. There were almost no people at all. Last night, a group of prison guards from this area were dispatched to maintain order at the dinner. I was really lazy this morning because of this. I will go find out later, Gucci on the side explained promptly. Well, here comes the warden. During the conversation, several people passed by a public restroom. At this time, inside the bathroom, there were more than a dozen unconscious prison guards with their hands and feet bound and mouth stuffed with rags piled up like stacks of logs. The entrance to the laboratory was right in front of him. After Guding entered his password and authenticated his identity, the door slowly opened. Inside the door, a researcher in a white coat held a document in his hand, as if thinking about its contents. Huh? Dr. Gu, warden, you are here. When Yanqing saw the person coming, he showed off his superb acting skills of having been a spy for many years and greeted him with a natural expression. Yeah, seeing someone who seemed to be fine, Guding completely let go of the strange feeling in his heart. Has the research on CS541 started? Oh, Dr. Zhao has spoken and said that he will wait for you to come before starting research. While responding, Yanqing turned slightly sideways and motioned for Guding to come in. Guding didn't notice anything was wrong, and subconsciously took a few steps forward. Call out all the people who don't have important work at hand. By the way, what's your name? Although this face was somewhat familiar, Guding was sure that he was a researcher in the laboratory, but he couldn't name him. It stands to reason that the names and looks of the people who have close friendships with him are all remembered. Dr. Gu, noble people often forget things. My name is Yanqing. I joined this research team 5 years ago. Yanqing followed Guding in, but he always kept a safe distance from the latter. Chu Xinyu followed the two of them, her eyes scanning around casually, with an unpredictable look on her face. Why is it too quiet? Where are the people? When he was approaching the main experimental site, Guding suddenly realized something was wrong. Besides this Yanqing, where are the others? Even if everyone in the small room is doing research with their doors closed, there shouldn't be only one person outside. And when Guding saw the mess of the main experimental site with his own eyes, all the machines and equipment were destroyed, his heart suddenly shrank. What's going on? Guding wanted to ask Yanqing to explain, but when he turned around, he found that the latter had already run out. At this time, the door of a small room near the main experimental site was suddenly opened, and a petite-looking girl walked out of it. In her hand, she was holding a 1-meter-long stick that did not fit her image at all. Long stick. Who are you? Guding asked sharply. There was a faint flash of light in Chu Xinyu's eyes, but she chose to step aside and watch what happened. Su Tingyu tilted her head, as you can see, the good guy who destroyed this laboratory. Good man. Guding was so angry that his face turned green and red. By the way, your colleagues are waiting for you below. Hurry up and reunite with them, Su Tingyu pointed at Guding with the end of his long stick. His tone seemed innocent and romantic, but in fact there was a hint of ferocity. Just you, Guding laughed sadly, as if he had heard something ridiculous. But the next second, he couldn't laugh at all. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 591. Guding wanted to call out the intelligent machines that were everywhere in the prison, but after yelling several times in a row, there was no response at all. What's going on? Guding's face slowly turned ugly. Seeing this, Su Tingyu showed a meaningful smile. The moment Guding came in and the lab door closed, Su Tingyu, who was in the small room, heard the noise and turned on the jammer. Outside the laboratory, Su Tingyu still had Dawei and the others guarding another jammer. Okay, you've lived for such a long time, and you've earned enough. Su Tingyu carried the stick and approached Guding little by little. In a panic, Guding caught a glimpse of Guqi and Shan Yu behind Su Tingyu. He suddenly felt calm and laughed out loud. Even if the machine doesn't work, there are 4 of us, just the 2 of you. Want to kill us? After saying that, Guding urgently shouted to Guqi, Warden Zhang. There are only 2 of them. Let's catch them together. Hearing this, Su Tingyu blinked his big eyes. This bad old man can't see the situation clearly. Okay, it's a long night and a lot of dreams. Get rid of them quickly. The voice of the warden came from behind Su Tingyu. Oh, Su Tingyu responded casually, took back the meteor rod, and took out the death blade. When Guding was in shock, when the blade of the death blade touched Guding's skin, dark purple fireworks suddenly burst out, burning his soul and pulling it out bit by bit. Ah! Zhang Manfan! You traitor! In his last moments of life, Guding understood the truth. But he only thought that the warden went crazy and rebelled, but he could no longer guess that the real warden was dead, and the person in front of him was just the fake warden. Attention to all players participating in the hidden mission the other side of the laboratory. Hidden mission progress has been updated. Hidden mission progress, 95%. There is still 5% mission progress left. Su Tingyu looked at the pop-up panel and guessed that the last 5% would be to completely destroy the entire laboratory and complete the main mission. Wonderful! Chu Xinyu, who had been standing in the corner watching the show, suddenly clapped with a slight smile on his face. Chu Xinyu didn't even blink when Guding was killed, let alone save others. And player, why aren't you running away? Su Tingyu asked curiously as she watched Chu Xinyu not move for a moment. And Chu Xinyu's face stiffened for a moment. This sister is joking. There is no conflict between us. We are just trying to escape from the prison and complete the main mission. A nail clipper suddenly appeared in Chu Xinyu's palm, and she leaned her back against the wall while pretending to do it. He started sharpening his nails and spoke with a smile. Nail clippers suddenly appear? Su Tingyu looked squarely at Chu Xinyu. The latter had actually removed the restrictions on the inventory and could use the inventory freely. Who said there isn't? Shan Yu took a few steps forward and showed a sweet smile towards Chu Xinyu. Old aunt, you are the target of my personal mission. Please sacrifice yourself. I am still a new player. I really need this mission reward. The smile on Chu Xinyu's face gradually disappeared. Then there's nothing to talk about. You, what are you talking about? When the atmosphere of the scene was tense for a while, Yan Qing's weak voice suddenly floated out. Sutingyu turned around and walked away, raised his hand, and knocked the person unconscious with the handle of the death blade. Chu Xinyu looked at the few people with her eyes and changed the subject. This is just a personal task. You want to help her, but you will get no benefit at all. Why do you do such a thing that is asking for trouble? Why don't you give me a price for what you want? Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuan-Ke. Chapter 592. A price. Gucci, who had been silent since he reminded Sutingyu just now, suddenly spoke in a soft tone, as if he was asking a rhetorical question. Yes, any condition or price is fine. Do you want to consider it? Chu Xinyu winked at her as if no one else was around. Her tone was ambiguous and suggestive. Higuchi's face was cold, and every word he spoke seemed to be mixed with ice picks. Cheap, disgusting. Do you really think that everyone is just a puppet in your hands? At your mercy? He picked up his right hand hanging by his side and curled his fingertips slightly. In an instant, Chu Xinyu's expression changed drastically. She wanted to escape from the place, but she couldn't move, because, at some point, countless transparent silk threads were pulled out around her body. The thin silk thread seemed to break if pulled, flickering with a little bit of cold light, silently, revealing the sharpness of a blade. Chu Xinyu tried to move her arm, and the next second, there was a scratch on her fair skin. The threads cut through the skin and cut into the flesh and blood inside. Chu Xinyu lowered her head and glanced at her wound. Who are you? The person who kills you, whether in a game or in reality. The words fell. The silk threads binding Chu Xinyu suddenly tightened. Cut. Dozens of bloody wounds suddenly appeared all over Chu Xinyu's body, and the number was still increasing. Very good, don't let me find you. Chu Xinyu felt the pain on her face without looking in the mirror. She knew that she had been disfigured. The effect of the disguise potion had just ended, and Chu Xinyu saw that the man 2 meters away from her had some slight changes in his figure and shape. It seems to be a little taller, and the slightly hunched back is straighter and looser. After taking off the last disguise of the mask, in Chu Xinyu's eyes, this was a very young face with a hint of strangeness. But the lines on his face revealed a certain familiar outline, just like the man she occasionally recalled. Now, even if he didn't die, he would have become a greasy uncle. How could he still be so young? The person in front of me can only be. So, it's you. Chu Xinyu's gloomy expression suddenly turned from gloomy to clear. She even ignored the cracked wound on her face and laughed wantonly, as if after realizing it, it's been so long, my dear. From Zioki. That's right. When you grow up and become an adult, you look more like Guyan. Chu Xinyu stared at Gucci steadily, with a hint of obsession in her eyes, as if she was looking at someone through the latter. Shut up. Gucci frowned, a trace of disgusted anger flashed in his eyes. You don't deserve to mention him. Chu Xinyu didn't care that Guqing still hated her as always. Speaking of which, it seems like I should go back to China to see my family grow up. By the way, remember to say hello to Guyan with me. Gucci said in a deep voice, he is dead. Tisk. Boring. Chu Xinyu curled her lips and accidentally pulled the wound on the corner of her mouth, causing a large amount of blood to flow out. It's still not exactly the same, Xiaoqi, Guyan is not as good as you. After saying this, Chu Xinyu vomited blood and couldn't help but bend down. A dagger was inserted into her lower abdomen at this moment. Chu Xinyu glanced at the wound, and the more she smiled, the happier she became. She looked crazy like a madman. Thank you for reminding me, I will come back to find you. After saying that, Chu Xinyu's neck was completely cut off, and his whole head fell to the ground. He stared at the boss with eyes wide open. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuan-Ke. Chapter 593. Congratulations to the player Sick Beauty, your mission target has died in this round of dungeon. The system has determined that you have completed your personal mission. Part of the rewards will now be distributed, and the remaining rewards will be distributed after the dungeon ends. Remove the restrictions on the confinement devices on the player's sick beauty in this round of dungeons. All confinement devices will not have any effect on you. The NPC will not be able to know and will automatically determine that everything is normal. After Chu Xinyu completely lost her breath, Shan Yu's personal mission was also shown to be completed. Only. Shan Yu's beautiful eyes glanced at Gu Qi's right hand that had just thrown out the dagger, and his fingertips were trembling slightly. Gu Qi? Completely destroy the laboratory, we can leave after a few seconds. Gu Qi seemed to have adjusted his condition and spoke in a steady voice. Okay. Su Tingyu, a melon eater who had been silently watching, took out the meteor rod again, enlarged the rod and smashed it against the wall or floor of the laboratory. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. In a short time, the laboratory became in tatters, and even the floor tiles were broken into pieces. The power and efficiency of this house demolition is comparable to that of a whole team of professional house demolition teams. Immediately afterwards, Gu Qi took out a lighter and gasoline. He first poured gasoline all over the laboratory, then lit the lighter and threw it directly on the floor where the gasoline had been poured. A raging fire ignited. Gu Qi used his identity as the warden to issue the final order, which was to mobilize external defense police forces to put out the fire in the laboratory. Gone. Gu Qi returned to his original appearance, and he also had an electronic certificate in front of him. Okay, Su Tingyu responded while instructing De Wei and the others to scare Yan Qing awake. Otherwise, it would be a bit unkind to leave this big brother here. Brother, we have to leave. Ever since, Yan Qing, who had been frightened and woke up, heard Su Tingyu's words in a state of shock, and then ran away in confusion. With the help of electronic certificates and the turmoil caused by the fire in the laboratory, Su Tingyu and others successfully escaped from the prison. On the outskirts of the island, on the coastal road. 5 minutes ago, Gu Qi had already sent a message to Qin Qi and Fatty with the help of a communicator. In the sky, the sound of propellers gradually became clearer. Boss! Boss! Miss Shan, on the plane, through the windshield in front of the driver's seat, you could see the fat man shouting excitedly downwards. Plane? Or solos? Yan Qing was shocked when he saw the plane's number. It wasn't solo on the plane, so solo. Su Tingyu also waved her little hand excitedly, Kikai Fatty. Congratulations to the player Angel Su for successfully escaping from the island prison within 7 days. Main mission progress, 100%. Congratulations to all players who participated in the hidden mission progress, 100%. Notice. After the dungeon ends, only players who successfully clear the level can obtain the rewards of the hidden mission. Several people's panels all popped up. Except for the different game nicknames on them, the messages they received were the same. The plane landed on the road, and Qin Qi and Fatty got off the plane. What are we going to do with this plane? Just throw it here. Fatty looked at the plane and felt a little pity. It's a pity that he can't take out a copy. Forget it, leave it to brother Yan Qing. Su Tingyu did have a storage ring that could put the plane in, but thinking of Yan Qing, he generously gave the plane away. Yan Qing, who silently lowered his sense of presence, was a little confused. Ah! Give it to me? Aren't you leaving? I'll give you 10 seconds to fly away right away, or else, You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 594. I'm leaving now. I'm leaving now. Under Su Tingyu's semi-threatening tone, Yan Qing quickly ran onto the plane. You really don't want to leave? As an NPC, Yan Qing couldn't understand the behavior of Su Tingyu and others. hurry up, or wait until the people in the prison react. The only researcher Yan Qing who doesn't have a body will be highly suspicious, Sutingyu kindly reminded. See you later then. Yan Qing imagined that he was about to be captured and immediately wanted to run away. Fortunately, I have learned to fly a plane, because my skills are not overwhelming. Sutingyu and others watched the plane take off, rise into the sky, and then wait until it was completely gone before they chose to leave the dungeon. Sister Shan Yu, I'm destined to see you in the next dungeon. Before leaving, Sutingyu waved her little paw towards Shan Yu. Okay, Shan Yu smiled back. Neither of them mentioned forming a team. If Shan Yu wants to form a team with Sutingyu and others, then he should contact Sutingyu after the Angel Apartment copy ends. Sutingyu also noticed this, so he didn't bother to bring up the idea of forming a team. After all, little fairies have to be a little more reserved. It all depends on fate. Congratulations to the player Angel Su for successfully clearing the island prison. Do you want to choose to teleport this round of dungeon now? Sutingyu clicked confirm. Others are no exception. 2 seconds later. Congratulations to the player Angel Su for successfully clearing the island prison. You will be teleported out of the copy in 10 seconds. No accident, no accident, no accident. Sutingyu prayed silently in her heart. 5, 4, 3. When the countdown ended, all 5 of Sutingyu successfully teleported out the copy. It seemed like nothing unexpected happened in the end. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. After an hour. In the copy, the flowing time is frozen. Planes flying over the sea. The people who are still extinguishing Mars. The old hen on the farm is jumping on the woman's head, opening its beak to peck. Everything has been pressed on the pause button. In the sky above the island prison, the 3-meter-high whirlpool door slowly opened, and 2 figures flew out. Sleep, sleep, sleep. I've been sleeping all day. Are you late for recycling again? Don't be too nervous. What could be the problem? Is it possible that the copy can still collapse? The 2 men in white uniforms with black stripes were still noisy, unaware of the seriousness of the matter. Until, one of them lowered his head and looked down. Why is the main scene of the dungeon burned down? Where is the key NPC? Why can't it be searched in the main scene? Who did it? Both of them looked very heartbroken and quickly found a system to repair the copy. But the result? We are sorry, but key props and key NPCs are missing in the island prison copy, and key scenes in the copy have been severely destroyed. Repair comments. 1. A copy of the theatrical version reduced to below 5 stars. 2. Merged with other copies of the theatrical version. 3. Rebuild, level unknown, high probability of downgrade. Repair success rate. 1.78%. 2.9%. 365%. A copy of the 6-star theatrical version? It's gone right away, one of them muttered with dull eyes. Another person patted him on the shoulder and comforted him. Actually, ours is fine, but there is a problem with the theatrical version copy. I heard that a world version copy was directly eliminated recently. Isn't it? If it were true, then he wouldn't be heartbroken. Say it quickly, make me happy, bah. Just gossip. Repair the copy first. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 595. 27 years ago. Capital, Suanbao Pavilion. There was a commotion at the door. Master Yan is here. Master Yan? Is he the one from the Gu family? Yes, that's the one. I heard that he also took a fancy to the heart of the deep sea that was auctioned today. At the door, the crowd moved to the left and right, leaving a wide passage leading directly into the door. A few seconds later, a group of people walked onto the passage. The leader of the man, with his body as tall as a sword peak, is worthy of being called the god of wind and handsomeness. His every move shows the magnanimity and demeanor that can only be cultivated by hundreds of years of aristocratic families. Inside Suanbao Pavilion, the guests who arrived earlier saw that it was someone from the Gu family, or the rare current head of the Gu family, Guyan, and couldn't help but start talking to the people next to them. Didn't that person never value auction donations? Why? Harm, you don't know yet, right? Master Yan has a woman recently. I heard that they are already talking about marriage. I guess he kept it a secret before, and the old man of the Gu family is also very optimistic about this marriage. So, Master Yan wants to auction this heart of the deep sea and give it to his fiancée. Regarding this speculation, many dignitaries who had just learned that the principal of the Gu family was getting married found it incredible. Gu Yanwang is actually getting married. Is it possible that the sun rises in the west and sets in the east today? Will the world end tomorrow? World War IV coming next month. The Gu Yanwang, who was extremely misogynistic, who without a twitching eyelid, described beautiful women as ugly, whose aesthetics were different from ordinary people, and who also bluntly said that he was not married, was actually going to get married. Oh my God! Which kind-hearted fairy descended to earth and took in this rebellious man? The ladies were disappointed and cried softly. But the young masters were secretly ecstatic, because they finally made it through. Nothing else. Gu Yanwang's halo is too great. Even if his personality is very difficult to get along with, you can't stand it when someone is prettier, richer, more powerful, and has a better figure than you. When he is around, all the unmarried ladies in the capital will be the first to look at him. Time is on Guyan. Guyan led the people all the way to the third floor and disappeared at the door of the private room. As the auction time was about to begin, the conversation about his topic gradually stopped. After the auction officially started, each valuable auction item was displayed in the eyes of many celebrities and dignitaries, attracting competing bids. In a private room on the third floor, a man and a woman were sitting in their respective seats, looking down through the skylight at the newly displayed auction items below. Xinyu, don't worry, I will definitely capture the heart of the deep sea. Only you are qualified to take the heart of the deep sea with you. Thank you, Mr. Leng, for spending the money. I have received your message. As for the heart of the deep sea, just let it happen. Men swear by their promises. And when the heart of the deep sea is auctioned, 2 minutes later, the final owner of the heart of the deep sea is Mr. Yan of the Gu family. Congratulations to Mr. Yan. You have obtained the heart of the deep sea. Suanbao Pavilion is here to wish Mr. Yan a happy wedding. In the private room, the man looked downcast and looked at Xinyu weakly. Xinyu, if not, I will give you another one. Master Yan, Xinyu kept staring at the skylight of the private room where they had just bid. The private rooms on the third floor are kept confidential from each other. Through the skylight, people inside can see outside, but outsiders cannot see inside. Xinyu's eyes flashed with curiosity and she asked, "Who is that?" The current head of the Gu family in Beijing, Gu Yan, is a ruthless person. Anyone who messes with him will not end well, the man explained. That's it? Xinyu glanced at the frightened man next to her, and there was a trace of invisible disgust in her eyes. But, Gu Yan. Xinyu, look, Gu Yan is out, the man pointed downwards. Xinyu's expression paused slightly, then turned to look. Just one glance. The crescent moon can be seen. Gu Yan was stronger than the man beside her. Whether its appearance, figure, or temperament. The most special thing is the man's rare and mysterious pair of cat eyes. When slightly narrowed, there is always an elegant and proud laziness. There was some unknown dark light in Xinyu's eyes. What a coincidence, it turned out that this was her next mission target. I really want to know what kind of scenery such a superb man will be like when he is in bed. Gu family, old house, backyard. Gu Yan learned from the housekeeper that his fiancée was walking in the backyard, so he took the heart of the deep sea he had just received to the backyard. Beside the flowers, a young woman stretched out her hand and gently touched the delicate petals, lowered her head and smelled it carefully. Ian, why are you out? When Guyan saw the person, he walked a few steps, stretched out his hands from behind the woman, and gently hugged the latter's waist. I feel stuffy in the room, so I'll go out for a walk. The woman leaned into Guyan's arms, her voice sweet, like a clear spring in the mountains and forests, nourishing the heart and lungs. Guyan, then I'll accompany you. No, I'm just about to go back to the house. The woman smiled gently. Guyan lowered his head and looked at his little wife's slightly swollen belly. Have you been tired of the brat in your belly today? His tone was full of concern, but the hand covering his belly was already half frozen, for fear of a sudden shock. If you are not careful, you will use too much force. The woman looked at her belly, her brows and eyes filled with happiness and tenderness as she was about to become a mother for the first time. No, it's only less than a month old, and the baby is very good. Besides, what a brat, what if it's a cute girl? As she said that, the woman rolled her eyes and protested on behalf of the unborn little guy. So, Guyan unprincipledly changed his mind, that must be a little princess, so well behaved. I also think that I heard many mothers say that when they were pregnant, the little ones in their stomachs were very noisy, but our babies were very quiet and healthy. Of course, my seed. There was a certain pride on Guyan's face. The woman's face turned slightly red. Go away. Hearing this, Guyan's tone became quite resentful. When will this little guy come out? It's still early, Mr. Gu, please go to the study tonight. Guyan's eyes sharpened. If this is a brat, I will definitely. What do you want to do? The woman asked, narrowing her eyes slightly. Ahem, no, by the way, this is for you. Guyan quickly handed over the gift. What's going on? Tear it down and take a look. 2 days later. The Gu family officially announced Guyan's marriage, causing a sensation in the capital. For a moment, the peach blossoms that were entangled with Guyan withered instantly. However, there are still some women who persist. But they didn't know that Guyan had moderate face blindness towards women, and it was almost difficult to leave an impression. 1 month later. America, Pao, Xinhuang Bar. Master Yan, you are here. Sit down, and sit down. As soon as Guyan entered the private room, the subspecies man who had been waiting inside for a long time immediately stood up and greeted him with a smile. I have something to say, I'm in a hurry. Guyan frowned. The bar environment was messy, and Guyan, who had a slight misophobia, was feeling slightly unhappy at this time. The man poured the tea diligently. It won't take up too much of your time. This is new tea brewed from newly imported tea leaves. Sir, please have a cup of tea. No need. Guyan refused directly. Guyan will not touch tea or food that has not been inspected and has no safety guarantee at all. In the private room specially decorated in an oriental antique style, the incense burner in the corner was emitting a faint fragrance, which unknowingly penetrated every corner of the private room. Guyan said bluntly, tell me your conditions. The people and goods must be released within 2 days, intact. This. As soon as he got down to business, the man became hesitant again. My patience is limited, don't force me to take action. Guyan looked impatient and continued to exert pressure. If it weren't for the fact that his child would be born within this year and he didn't want to be stained with blood, Guyan wouldn't have to go through all the trouble to come. This man's acting style was like a loach, slippery and slippery. After several attempts, the negotiations ended in vain, and Guyan could only intervene in person. After spending half an hour, Guyan refused to give in to the benefits and bottom line he wanted. Of course, he couldn't push the man too hard, so he gave up some benefits appropriately. In the end, the negotiations ended successfully. Master Yan just came here, right? As the host, I have to entertain you no matter what. Guyan refused, No need, he had to rush back to China to see his wife and children. After Guyan left the private room, the man made a phone call. In half an hour, the amount of inhalation should be enough. Whether it can be done or not depends on you. In the car, Guyan raised his hand and pressed his eyebrows, looking gradually tired. Master, there was an accident on the scheduled flight. All planes at the airport have been grounded. In the passenger seat, the assistant was reporting the news he had just received. Are there any flights from other nearby cities today? Guyan closed his eyes. They are all gone. Half an hour ago, a plane suddenly exploded just after it took off. Preliminary inference is that a bomb may have been installed. Now all planes are forced to stop and conduct comprehensive investigations. Guyan, find the nearest hotel, rest for a night, and pay more attention to the flight information in the past 2 days. Yes. The assistant quickly arranged hotel check-in. Hotel room. Master, please rest first. I will have someone come up to deliver the food later. On the edge of the bed, Guyan raised his hand and rubbed the center of his brow, saying hum softly. A few seconds later, the sound of a door closing was heard. The assistant has left the room. After the person left, Guyan lay down on the bed, and his consciousness gradually began to blur. No, that's not right. Guyan always felt that something was wrong, but at this time he had completely lost consciousness. At last, vaguely, there seemed to be the sound of footsteps. More than 7 months later, in the hospital, Guyan, who was delayed by foreign affairs, rushed back all the way. But what was waiting for him was: I'm sorry, Mr. Gu, your wife's newborn daughter is too weak and has. Guyan's first reaction was disbelief. Weak constitution? Impossible. I've been checked many times. Please have your condolences. In response, the doctor could only sigh and then left silently. Next to him, the assistant who had been following him suddenly reminded, Master, Madam sighed. Guyan paused slightly. He originally wanted to see his child who died just after birth, but his wife. Go and see my dear lady. Yes. Chapter 3000.